What is leadership? Who empowers leaders? How do you become a leader? For example, I am not a leader of a corporation, but I am a leader in my bathroom. It is clean. I go every day. I make sure that the towel is not on the floor. I'm taking leadership of my own bathroom. When I cook, I try to cook healthy food. So I am leading my cooking in ways that I can expect that my nutrition will make me better off. So leadership is an attitude. Leadership is something from inside. It's a state of being. The exercise of leadership in the public domain is something else. It's also the same ingredient, but then I need to pass through filters. How do I pass through filters? First filter was to know. This guy knows and all. The second filter was behavior. Now we are talking about filtering leaders through value systems in the public domain. But I think I need to send the first message here, which is everyone is a leader, and it must be a leader on its own right. You must lead your life. If you're not able to lead your life, you cannot lead others. It's like managers. If you are not able to manage yourself, you cannot manage other people. If you are really an alcoholic, a drug addict, a person who has emotional instability, you should not be a manager. It's not a sin not to be a manager. The whole world cannot be a manager. That's not the end of the story for human life. So if you are not a manager, don't worry. Every student of DePaul University cannot be thought as new managers. Like I in my life, at one point in time, I decided to be the best second and not the best first. It was too costly. It was impossible. The filters were too thick for me to go through. So I decided to serve. You need to write a speech for the president, I wrote it. You need to fly to Senegal and write the Nouvelle Politique Agricole. I flew to Senegal and I tried to help. So I tried to be the best second. We are not always. But within my second place, there was also leadership. There is leadership at all levels, For example, many people have no leadership in their thinking. Their mind is what Hindu calls, macaco minds, monkey minds. The mind is totally uncontrollable. How will you coherently lead anything? Impossible. So leadership begins inside. Leadership is not being sold in supermarket. There are no supermarkets for leadership. Rich people are not better leaders than poor people. So there are many variables that don't jive with leadership because it has to be within. How you become a leader? The moment you know what your mission is. If you have no idea what your mission is, what are you there for? It's impossible to exercise leadership. And we see this in many, many places. What are the reasons for not expressing this leadership? High levels of toxicity, high levels of stress, and huge attachment, emotional and material attachments. So your mind is really into this other corner and not in the corner of self-expression of this leadership. Now, on leadership in the public domain, it's a big question mark whether the filtering process is the right one as regard positions like President of the United States, President of Chile, all the President of Congresses, senators, representative in the lower Camera, or Secretary General of the United Nations, President of the World Bank. What type of filters we're putting to this leadership? This is something where ethical leadership is important, because if the filter is ethics, well, we need to define what ethics is, but assuming that everyone is understand more or less the same, then ethics is an important filter for leadership. But in my view, the ultimate filter is self-realization. We need to find self-realized leaders. That is to say, leaders that have mastered their self-identity, that have mastered their self-trust, have mastered their self-capacities, so they can give through leadership and not take through leadership. Today, leadership is taking. I become a senator, I take as much from lobbyists as possible. Leadership is not taking. Leadership is nurturing. Leadership is not leading, actually. I just finished a book on the Tao of management. And management, the best managers are those who do not manage, that creates the environment for self-management. I had a great bosses that never nagged behind my back whether I was working or not working. They will not micromanage me. So management is not create mechanisms of control. Leadership is not me, 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 me. No. The day I become president of Chile is to serve. But I can only serve if I can nurture. And I can only nurture if I have something to give. If I have nothing, if my mind is not coherent, my soul is confused, I don't know who I am, what am I doing, and I only have my ego running behind this leadership, I have nothing to offer. Leadership is like motherhood. You have to have the capacity to create, be part of creation, but also be part of nourishment. Motherhood is not only to create a baby, it's to nurture a baby. That's why women in this world are so important, because they have the capacity to create and nurture. So leaders are to self-realize feminine energy. If they don't have feminine energy, which means creation and nurturing, this is not leadership. Today the world is led by masculine energy, which is very tough, rough, is not negative. I'm not making a negative statement about masculine energy, but I'm saying the texture of masculine energy is very present time, very dictum oriented, very hierarchical oriented, because sometimes there are processes that need that type of energy. But leadership is motherhood. If you are not in the business of motherhood, better not be a leader, because you will be a leader who takes and doesn't give.